Today, I want to share the truth about depression. Depression is something we talk a lot about in our society. And most of what we're told is that depression is a disorder. That if we're depressed, that there's something wrong with us, or that there's something that needs to be fixed. This really simply is the way that our healthcare system thinks and speaks about depression, that it's something to pathologize. But I want to share a different model of depression. I want to share a model of depression as a response. Depression can actually be a natural response to the loss of intimacy. One thing that we're not educated on is how deep our need for emotional intimacy is as human beings. And the simplest way to think about what emotional intimacy is, it's having the experience of someone else who's curious about you, wants to understand your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences, and who's actually able to see you. This mirroring from another helps us feel a sense of belonging, something we all deeply need, and it actually helps us understand ourselves better. We have so many studies that show how having secure relationships, whether they're with friends, with families, or with partners, actually makes us feel more confident, more resilient, and even more physically healthy. But most of the messaging that we receive in our culture is actually about being hyper independent or not needing anyone at all, doing it all ourselves, which really goes against our most basic needs as human beings. And when we lose emotional intimacy, the loss is really intense for us. Take a minute now and think back, maybe to a painful breakup you had. Maybe it was a friendship that you lost. Maybe it was something in childhood. Maybe you lost a parent. Maybe you lost a grandparent. If we didn't have anyone to support us or to comfort us, these losses can actually feel like a shock in our body. We end up not being able to concentrate. Sometimes we're not able to eat, we're not able to sleep because our body has gone into a fight or flight response. We feel unsafe. In reality, what is happening in both our body and our mind is that we're grieving a natural human experience. And a lot of times, this grief, especially if it goes on for a long period of time, ends up being labeled as depression. So here's a really common cycle that some of us go through. We might experience some type of loss of connection, maybe even a rejection. We perceive that we're being rejected by someone that's important to us. As a result, we end up really understandably feeling hopeless. Maybe we even feel shameful. Our body in this moment is actually going into a freeze state. We begin to isolate. We don't have any energy to connect. Sometimes we're doing this as a way to soothe our overwhelming feelings. This now sense of disconnection, us being separate from people, a lot of times ends up being misinterpreted by society. Society doesn't understand what grief is, doesn't understand how to support people when they're grieving, ultimately leading to more felt disconnection. And so the cycle continues. So if you're listening and you're feeling depressed right now, as a lot of you are, the most helpful step you can begin to take for yourself is treat yourself with compassion and understanding around how you're feeling. So whether you've lost an important relationship, or maybe you're like me and you just grew up always feeling disconnected, take a moment to begin to feel in your body where your feelings of sadness and grief might live. Maybe you might feel a heaviness in your belly or a tightness in your shoulders. It is very normal to feel however you're feeling when you've experienced a loss of connection. And it is so important for you to develop the ability to be patient with yourself without judgment and without shame as you become present to all of the emotions inside of you so that you can finally allow yourself to fully grieve. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you found yourself stuck in this cycle? Have you sensed that maybe your depression is actually grief? I'd love to hear your journey below.